What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another live episode of the Ready Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. Matt, how you doing this Sunday evening?
I'm doing pretty well, Zach. It was good to see 49ers football back. I know I have a lot to say on the game, so let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely good. There were some bright spots, some not so bright spots. What were your kind of initial takeaways after watching it?
Yeah, so I took notes on the game. I have it broken down into two different subjects. So the first subject is just going to be general overall, just thoughts on the game, how different players did. And then secondly, I did a play-by-play breakdown of what Trey Lance did in terms of on passing plays. Just, because okay, he hands the ball off. That's fine. No big deal. But we're all here, to really get a breakdown on what he did in terms of passing. So I'll start with the regular notes. We'll get your thoughts as well, and then I'll move on to Trey Lance.
Perfect.
All right. So first things first. Opening kickoff. Richie James is still an awful returner. He ran right into the guy on the opening kickoff, ran right into a defender for a tackle. Come on, man. I'm just tired of him. He's just a bad returner, and we'll get to more Richie James being Richie James in a little bit. Jimmy starts off with a rollout to the left and hit Deebo Samuel. The throw was fine, if not like a little bit behind him. I think that, that kind of slowed down. It's a bad throw that becomes a good result, right? Because if he leads Deebo probably gets tackled right away. Because Deebo had to turn inside, he was able to shake the defender. So he got, some nice rack yardage there. I noticed I like Trey Sermon. He reminds me a little bit of they're running in between the tackles like they did with Tevin Coleman, but I think that Sermon has a little bit more wiggle. He put the ball on the ground, which was not the best, but that needs to be cleaned up, and we'll talk about that later too. Overall, the first drive, Jimmy looked like Jimmy. If you're a Jimmy fan, you're not mad at the outing. It looks exactly like what we come to expect. He was 3 for 3. Everything he threw was underneath. And on a 3rd and long, he checked it down to the running back. That's about par for the course for Jimmy. It's very Jimmy Garoppolo style drive. One thing I noticed out of the defense right away, Griffith and Hufanga looked pretty good. I don't know who Griffith is, but he seemed like he was everywhere. Hufanga got a weird PI when he ran into Tyreek Hill. It looked more like he was trying to make a play on the ball, and Tyreek Hill was just so much smaller than him. He could just kind of bounced off his chest. But otherwise, he's really nice. He's a very, very sound tackler. That was the theme throughout the game. He came up and made plays, and he was a very good tackler, and he had a nose for the ball carrier, so he was able to, snuff out a lot of things. First Chiefs touchdown, BW Webb burnt toast. Like, just did not – he got caught peeking into the backfield, and he just let his man go right by him for a touchdown. After the touchdown, which we'll talk about in a little bit from Trey Lance, Robbie Gould doinks the extra point. That's midseason for him for Robbie. On the next drive, Diamador Lenore, heads up interception on the tip drill. I thought that was really good. His man had him by a step. The throw was behind, and when the ball bounced up in the air, he had the presence of mind and the sight to be able to go up and just grab it, which is those things make a difference. There are a lot of times where you see those tip drills and the guy just kind of bobbles it and he drops it. This time, Lenore was able to, to pick that up, and that turned into 3 extra points for the Niners. Sermon fumbled. That to me, so I wanted to talk about that specifically with Sermon because it looked like he had some sort of like issue with his hand or like his shoulder, like he had some kind of stinger. And I wonder if that had something to do with what happened there. All night long, the second team defensive line looked pretty good. Arden Key looked really good. He got a lot of pressure. Ambry Thomas looked all right. He was in on a couple of plays, but he had an egregious hold that was not called. That should have been. He was all over that guy. Josh Rosen came in, played just about all the second half. He looks about done with football at times and then still really talented at other times. So some throws were just really bad. That egregious overthrow for the pick in the red zone was just a terrible throw. But then he have other throws that you're like, wow, that's an NFL throw right there. So he's just, I don't know. I just don't know what's going on with him. And I thought odd that they didn't play Sudfeld at all. I'm wondering if they do something similar. Maybe Jimmy gets an extra series. Trey goes through the same thing, maybe plays the first series in the third quarter, and then maybe Sudfeld gets the rest of the game. And I think maybe they're going to try to like compare them that way. Otherwise, it's kind of weird. Aaron Banks, man, he looks shaky as all hell. He got bullied. He looked like he had slow feet. And then to add injury to insult, he injured his shoulder in the third quarter, which we'll talk about this week on Niners News. Moore right now, Jalen Moore looks like, he started the game at left tackle. He looks like he's going to be a swing tackle for the team, or maybe they're just doing it for now to have depth. But he looks like he's the better rookie, and that's worrying given each one's draft position. Jermichael Hasty sighting. He fumbled the ball, put the ball on the ground. They were able to recover that. Ball security needs to be a point of emphasis. Trey Lance had a fumble. Sermon had a fumble. Hasty had a fumble. Like the ball was hitting the ground way too much. He later scored a touchdown, which was good. And I thought that on that drive, he ran the ball really well. I still really like Hasty, but he's probably the odd man out right now. I like Simba Webster. He's got some juice in the open field. He took, I think it was a jet sweep, and then he also was returning kicks. He looked nice on the returns, minus that one really weirdly fielded punt that he got like a really weird hop on, and he had to kind of like Air Jordan to kind of grab the ball out of the air and just fall on it. But they might have something for their return game with Simba. I'm really interested to see what he does. Although I could do without Greg Papa saying that he runs like Mufasa. I haven't heard a local K-Pix broadcast in a long time, and I'm kind of glad because it was pretty bad. And then the last real thing that I noticed, there was a play where the 49ers were running, the lineman was in front, and the Chiefs DB went to dive at the running back through the legs of the offensive lineman, and they called it a low block, which was a personal foul penalty. It's an interesting implementation of the rule. And so I'm kind of interested to see, because it seems to me like if they're enforcing the rule like that, that means DBs are going to have to go straight up with offensive linemen, and that's going to mean Pancake City on those, those runs where you can either change direction and get the lineman to fire out, or whatever the case may be. Because I guess you're not supposed. Terry McCauley was talking about it on Twitter, where you're absolutely, even if you're trying to make a tackle on the player, if you contact the blocker, it's going to be called for a low block. So overall, those were just my notes on the general play of the players. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, real quick. Papa was cringe as hell. I was watching this TV broadcast, and I'm like, I have to mute it at times because it was just. And I think
when Trey threw the touchdown, and he said Trey area, my wife was like, "What is that?"
I wanted to spit out my drink.
It
and
was
I was
so
just
bad.
Like, can you just not? Some things I know I shouldn't say, even though it's fine to say, but you just shouldn't. Yeah. You just shouldn't. And Papa was that, and him and Tim Ryan saying E40. I'm just like, oh my god, man, just please stop.
Yeah. Hopefully that's just it's preseason for them too, so hopefully they can get that under control.
Somebody tweeted at me and they were like, "Look, man, he's an old man just trying to fit in. Take it easy." I'm like, "All right, I feel bad now, but it was cringe." I think you touched on Arden Key. I really liked Arden Key. Mo Hurst had a quietly good night as well. I'm so glad also you touched on Webster because, man, do they have something in the return game? Finally, do they finally have something in Simba Webster? Possibly. It's a little too early to say definitely yes, but
there's
I do
potential
think
there, though.
Positive. Yeah, exactly. So I do think that they have something there to work with, and everything Richie James did last night, was negative. Nothing he did.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of his more egregious stuff. So.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as the game, I thought the Niners did all right. I know that Grant Cohn was kind of tweeting all night, and he questioned Coach Shanahan in the post-game press conference as to why he didn't roll out Trey.
Gangster response though. He's like, because that's not what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I thought that was
such an awesome response.
Yeah,
man.
I know. I'm like, oh my god, that's hilarious.
Well, the problem is, we all know, like, Grant knows why they weren't doing that stuff because they don't want to show that stuff. And he knew that. And he was just, I don't know. I don't agree with Grant asking that question and expecting anything other than what Shanahan gave him, because like they're not trying to show all their cards in the preseason game one.
Yeah, it's pointless. And I think he tweeted something along the lines of like he's coaching like he has Mac Jones as his quarterback. It's like, dude, he played like 30, 35 snaps. Like, take it easy. There's going to be plenty of times when games that actually matter.
Trey Lance actually played 26 snaps.
There you go. Yeah, 26 snaps.
26.
So not even the 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colleen here says Benjamin as well. Travis Benjamin was horrible, to put it mildly. He was not a great outing from Travis Benjamin. I expected a lot more from the veteran, especially after taking all last season off last year.
He looks like he's shot, man.
Yeah, he definitely does.
And there were some effort issues, man. There were effort issues from Benjamin where it looked like he was giving up on plays, which I didn't like.
Yep. And you mentioned Rosen, and we said in the chat last night, I don't know if it was Perry, but he said, like, oh man, I really want him to make it. I'm like, I think you might want it more than he does, because it doesn't really seem like there's much there from Josh Rosen anymore.
Yeah. I mean, he had some good throws, but then he also had like crappy throws, and it's just like, and the one thing that showed me that he does still have a little bit of fight was at the end of the game where they had that offside when the guy didn't get back in time for them to clock the play, and you see Rosen actually legitimately get upset, and it's just like that at least shows me that he still has a fire to try to win, and so hopefully he can parlay that. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward. I don't know what their plan is for Nate Sudfeld, if they're going to play him in the second game or not. I think that's going to be a real key in terms of who's actually leading the clubhouse in this battle. So,
yeah, I thought it was interesting as well that they didn't play him at all. They just went with Jimmy, Trey, and Josh Rosen. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get a definitive answer on Josh Rosen. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. Something that I saw a lot of people, including myself, talk about last night was Jimmy just being an overall good teammate. And this was kind of the picture that, everybody took off with.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome because you could just see him.
Yeah. And I have that written down in my notes.
Okay. Yeah. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick, just because, and he even mentioned afterwards, if it's Josh or Trey coming over to me to ask questions, I got no problem answering them. It's just nice to see him genuinely happy for his teammate that's coming to take his job. Like it's a tricky situation, but you still love to see it. So those are kind of my initial thoughts, but there's a lot there.
No, absolutely. I thought, again, overall, what I look for in the preseason is individual players and things that they're doing. It's really hard to go through, and I don't know, like people are like, oh man, we lost, and it's like, yeah, that doesn't really matter though. Like it's preseason. It's not about the wins and losses don't count right now. You're trying to play good situational, solid football, and you're trying to get a read on what players are going to make this team, especially at a depth level. You really need to see what players have. So to me, it's less about wins and losses, and it's more about individual storylines. Which group is performing well, which player looks really good, who pops out as somebody who's either playing good or playing bad. And I think that's, all we have to look out for in those. And those are how I kind of go about taking my notes in terms of what I'm watching in the game.
Yeah. Also, I just want to reiterate how impressed I was by Talanoa Hufanga last night. Look, he didn't have it as like something on the statue that was screaming out, but it was the effort plays. And you saw it, whether it was on defense, on special teams. Every time I looked up, I saw him all over the field. So that was really impressive to me, and hopefully something he could build on moving forward and earn that spot on the final 53. I
will say this. I think that, he's a player that has ultimate effort. And again, like I said, he's got a nose for the ball. He's going to learn. He did have one play that I thought was pretty funny. It was a jet sweep to Tyreek Hill, and Hufanga had him was right there. And then Hill just kind of ran right by him. And it was like, you got to take a different angle to that, brother, because you don't have the I don't know if he's ever seen the Tyreek Hill speed, but he got baptized on that, and it was like a modest 7-yard game. But I just thought it was funny that it's just like, okay, he needs to figure that out. But then for the rest of the game, he was all up on guys, wrapping people up. Really, just a physical football player, and I really like him. I think that he's a great pick for the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree. As far as the 49ers defensive line, as it got later on in the game, and obviously it's to be expected, but it got kind of ugly to say the least. There was getting no pressure. I think they had a total of 3 sacks on the whole night. I would have expected a little more just because we've heard for the last month or so that this is a really good and deep defensive line.
Yeah. I mean, it's deep, but then like they didn't, I mean, Armstead didn't play, Bosa didn't play, Ford didn't play.
That's fair.
You know, Kinlaw didn't play. Like you're missing your top 4 guys. So then you're running the second team out there as the first team. Then you got your third stringers out there to replace those guys. So I think it's a little bit much to ask your defensive line to run 12 deep. But overall, I thought when they were first out there, I thought they did a good job, which means that the backups are probably doing a good job and will be, worthwhile.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a really good point. I think overall, there's a lot to be pleased from. I know the Niners lost. Obviously, it doesn't really matter. Preseason week 1. I walked away last night feeling pretty good about the game. Did you feel any differently or?
I felt pretty good. I think we were all excited. I mean, the star of the show obviously was Trey Lance. So, I did a play-by-play breakdown of like what he did. So, I mean, if you're ready, we can jump right into it.
Yeah, let's go.
Perfect. First pass play that he escaped pressure beautifully. It was a designed deep throw, and he was able to get out of the pocket and on the run threw up like a dot to Brandon Ayuk, and there was mustard on that throw, but I mean that was just a flat out drop from Ayuk, which was a little disappointing. I was just like, come on, man, like we got to make those catches because that was a great off schedule play, and that's what we've been talking about in terms of like what we want to see. It's some of the off schedule stuff, and it was just a flat out drop, and that'll be a theme for the night. Second pass play, Brunskill gets blown up by Jones, gets tripped by the running back, and Lance had absolutely no time on third down, so that ended that drive. That was the first sack of the game against him. The next play is the one that everybody's talking about. Trey rolls out to his left, drops an absolute bomb to Sherfield on the opposite side. 80-yard touchdown to Sherfield. Absolute money throw. We've all seen the highlights. It was beautiful. And you showed the image earlier, but I want to give props to Jimmy for legitimately looking like the happiest teammate for Trey making that throw. He was jumping up and down, fist pumping, huge smile on his face, ran up to Trey. It was really cool to see, and it's just a sign of what the 49ers players defend about Jimmy and the fact that he's a great leader. It's something you love to see. So everybody's talking about this. This is the one that got Ian Rappaport to say, don't get too excited. Don't get too excited. This is the throw that I think Kyle really wanted to see, because I think at its core, I think Kyle wants Trey Lance to win this job. And so he needs to have these throws to do it.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
How funny was it, John Lynch in the booth, acknowledging that he didn't take the shorter gimme pass to Ayuk, and he went for the bomb pass to Trent Sherfield. Yep.
Yeah. It's funny because they all see it. And we talked about this too. The players are going to know, and the players know, it's one of the things that you like about Trey Lance is that he goes for it. As we'll see in a little bit, sometimes that's got to be reined in a little bit, but I mean, on that play, that was a thing of beauty. The next pass play he had was a quick screen to Jennings for about 11. The play developed really quickly, and Jennings looked pretty explosive. So that was a nice play. Next pass play, Lance was sacked for the second time. Number 48 of the Chiefs got backside pressure, and he was essentially unblocked. The tight end gave him like a half-ass chip and then released to run his route, and Trey had no time to throw. The third down was a check down to Gallman under heavy pressure. He didn't really have any other option. He didn't have a time again, so he had to get that play off. The next throw that he had was after the punt that went out of bounds at the 1. I thought it was a gutsy play call by Kyle to call a play action pass from their own 1-yard line. I thought that was a nice job by him, and a nice job to Trey as well. He went through his progressions. He recognized that the defender slipped against Charlie Warner and threw him the ball, and it was a 34-yard gain. Good throw on the money. He escaped pressure the next pass play on a rollout to the left, stepped up and made a nice throw to River Craig Crap on the left sideline. Drop number 2 from the wide receiver. Lance took a big hit in between 2 defenders. I didn't like to see that. It was a great throw. Craycraft just dropped it. It was just bad. The next play was a third down throw to Craycraft. It was short of the sticks on the money, but it reminds me of every third down play that Jimmy throws. throws it underneath short of the sticks. And so that was on brand for like a Jimmy Garoppolo thing. And, that's a little bit of the vanilla offense kind of rubbing off on Trey there. The next one was Richie James. Trey threw an absolute dime under pressure. The guy was right in his face. He lofted it right up over him to the right sideline. There was touch on the throw, even though it still had, plenty of oomph on it. And, Richie just must not want to make this team. He accounted for that third drop of the night, and that was terrible. I think this is going to cost Richie James a spot on the roster. There's no reason. It hit him in his hands. You have to catch that ball. Trey, next play, with a dart. It was between two defenders, but Richie strikes again as he was stumbling and wasn't able to make a play on the ball. He couldn't reach up and get it. It was a good throw. It was there, but he couldn't make a play on it. Another quick area screen to Jennings. This seems to be something that they are purposefully designing for him and that he excels at. It goes for 15 yards. So that was good. And you like to see it out of Jennings. It looks like that's a lot of what they're going to use him for. And I think it's good. The next throw was, I feel like, Lance's first bad read, bad throw. Like and subscribe, everyone. We love having you here. 2,000 subscribers. We're giving away jerseys. Let's do it. But yeah, this was Lance's first bad read, bad throw. He threw it to the right sideline. He didn't see the DB that was underneath and tried to fire one into the wide receiver, and it almost got picked off. It's something that he definitely has to, he has to see that DB. The next throw was another one that was a little off. He was kind of on his back foot and up on his toes, and he led Warner about 2 yards too far. And I noted that it was the second straight bad play that he had from the shotgun. So I wanted to make note of that, and I thought it was something to watch. The next play was the third sack of the game on Lance. He had enough time to throw, but he couldn't find someone before Moore got beat at the left tackle. Quicker progressions are going to come with him, though, with more reps. So, that's not something I'm like super going to beat him up about. It's, Jimmy goes boom, 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 like real quick. And it's hard to make that expectation of Trey at this point in their career. He'll get better at it. But as a note, it was another shotgun play. The next one was yet another shotgun play that didn't go well. Lance fumbled the ball after a defender pressured from the front side and swiped Lance's throwing hand. He was able to fall on the ball, but that was sack number 4 of the night. Then the next throw, he hit Sermon underneath for a modest gain. Seemed like a typical Kyle play call in which he tried to offset the yards lost from him falling on the fumble. So it put Trey in another 3rd down and long. He's trying to just gain back the original yards and get a 3rd and 10 or whatever. This one I think was his worst throw of the night. It was another shotgun near disaster. Trey tried to force the ball to Jennings on an in-cutting route in between two defenders and was nearly picked off. This throw was a 100% ego throw. Like, I can get the ball there throw. And so you like him taking the chances, but it was not the best throw that he had. The next one, Lance rushed a throw under pressure to the left sideline to Benjamin that was wide and went out of bounds. But the defensive lineman had his hand up in the air, so he did a good job of not putting the ball in danger. He had to get it out wide to avoid the tip from the defensive lineman, and once the ball gets tipped, you have no idea what's going to happen. And then the last pass play that he had, it just shows that I think that shotgun and 2-minute drill seems to be an early area of weakness from Lance that he needs to improve upon. This was another typical 3rd and short Kyle play with Benjamin on a backside slant route. He was tightly covered by the DB, and the DB made a good play for the pass breakup. The throw was on target, but there wasn't a lot of separation there, and I just wonder if there was another receiver that would have been a better read. I think it was one of those bang, like you only have one read and you need to throw this ball. And if Lance was, able to take off and run, maybe he could have done that. But I think they kind of made it so that the emphasis tonight was on him staying in the pocket. So his final stats of the night were he was 5 of 14 for 128 and a touchdown. He was sacked 4 times. He had 1 fumble and 3 drops from wide receivers and 2 throws that I thought were poor. Overall, there's a lot to like from Trey in his debut. The moment didn't look too big for him. I mean, he seemed to have firm control of the team, of the huddle, of the plays. He didn't look lost. He wasn't looking around trying to figure out where he was. I mean, it was he looked like he belonged out there on the field from minute one. The 80-yard throw was beautiful. Absolute money throw. It's the one everyone is talking about. But I'd argue that the two throws that were dropped to Ayuk and to James were actually more impressive throws. Those were big time. You need to make those on third down to real, like those type of plays are what make or break a drive, and I thought that those were actually harder difficulty throws. The bomb was cool, man, and it was spot on the money, but I mean, Sherfield was wide open. So those tight window throws and escaping pressure and being able to get those out, I thought those were the actually better, more high difficulty degree throws. So I'm curious next week to see what he does. They're going up against the Chargers in LA. How he does in the 2-minute drill and from the shotgun will be a key moving forward. Quickening of working through progressions will happen with more reps, but there were some great throws under pressure, and he showed good pocket mobility, which is important. And most importantly, he kept his eyes downfield and looked to throw rather than looking to run. Obviously, no read option tonight or last night, which will add something else for the defense to worry about. And as it stands, I think that Jimmy should still be considered the starter for now. But I think Trey showed that this is very much a quarterback competition, and depending on how he grows in the next 2 games, could still be in the running to take the job from Jimmy by week 1.
Wow. All right. I love it.
Yep.
Very, very detailed. Thank you for that.
Yep.
I thought that it was interesting to see, like, after the first couple of series with Trey Lance, especially after the touchdown pass, there were people on Twitter who were saying, like, give the job to Trey. Trey's earned it. Trey's shown he can hang with, NFL speed and whatnot. And very quickly, he shows that he's still a rookie. He's still a rookie. He's still going to make the same rookie mistakes or, like kind of trusting his arm a little too much, like you alluded to there.
Yep.
And I think that needs to be kind of, mentioned again, the fact that he is a rookie and he took a year off basically of football due to COVID. And it's going to take him some time to get everything back to 100% and to get adjusted to the NFL speed, because that's completely different than, North Dakota State being there and playing against, talent at that level.
Yeah.
I just think that needs to be
it's
mentioned.
true. It's true. But I also think that without those 3 drops, that line looks a little bit different, right? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden now he's 8 of 14 for like 170 yards and a touchdown. And so that you're kind of weighing it against that. I thought he looked really good. Again, 2 poor throws, 1 situation where he held onto the ball too long that got him sacked. He didn't have a lot of time. I think with the first team offensive line, he would have had a lot more time. And then when you're running read option plays, which they're going to do for him, and RPOs, and you actually are having Lance, work his way out of the pocket, perhaps running. I think that's going to again add another layer that the defense has to worry about. We talk about playing 11-on-11 football, and so I just think that as time goes on, that's why I think the Chargers game is so interesting. Let's see what his growth is. Let's see where he moves on from here. See if he can kind of go back and look at the tape and fix some things. That throw that he had that the DB was playing underneath coverage and was able to make a jump on, maybe that's something that, next time he knows not to throw that because now he's seen it in film. Again, like you alluded to, he spent an entire year off. So some of these things, even with speed of the game that you have to deal with as a rookie, they're going to look a little different because he hasn't played with essentially live ammunition. It's one thing to look great in practice, and that's great, right? But it's that practice is like, you got sacked, somebody touched you, you're down or whatever. It's not. I mean, he took a couple of decent hits, and so until you have that happen, which hasn't happened to him in over a year, I mean, it's you never know what you're going to get. So how he grows going forward, I think, is going to be critical to watch.
Yeah, and it was very frustrating to see how much he got hit, even on the plays that he wasn't sacked on. He was still taking hits. Hopefully when he does play in regular season, there will be obviously the starting offensive line, and it'll be a lot more protection than he was afforded last night, because it was almost, pure chaos out there for Trey Lance, because there were times where the offensive linemen were getting beat immediately right off the snap and had no chance of success. So it's hard to, go through your progressions or let a route develop when it takes 3 to 4 seconds for the receiver to run down the field and you have a defensive end in your face within 2 seconds. It's not really setting himself up for success. So that's what's tough to watch and evaluate too.
Oh, yeah. I just love that, after the game, Lance was like, he didn't put the blame on anybody but himself. He's like, I left big plays out on the table. I held on to the ball too long. I got sacked. That's on me, and that's what you want to see. That's leadership right there. It's composure. It's everything that you want to see out of a young guy. And, it's, again, we're looking at it right now, and a lot of people are calling to just give Trey the job. We're seeing it. He's already almost at Jimmy Garoppolo's level right now in a lot of ways. He made 2 poor throws. Guess what? We got a poor Jimmy throw or 2 every single game anyway. So I actually think that his arm strength is actually a benefit because, DBs aren't known for having the most sure hands in the world. And there are going to be times where he's got mustard on that ball and they're not going to be able to, even if they make a jump on it, they're not going to get it. So it'll be interesting to see going forward. Because when you add all the physical tools, that it's hard not to clamor for him if the competition is anywhere close.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
How impressed were you by Trent Sherfield? Is this something that could develop into something?
I think he's going to take Richie James' spot on the team. I don't think that's that outside the realm of possibility for that to happen. I didn't see a lot of him outside of that catch though. So yeah, I thought it was impressive that he caught that ball. Like nobody was going to catch him on that. So he was able to just take it to the house and not have to worry about it. But I'd like to see a little more consistency. I want him to be involved in more than just that one play. You know what I mean? So I was actually most impressed with Juwan Jennings, who I thought, caught those screens very well. I noticed that he was a hardcore blocker on running plays. Like he's a very aggressive style blocker and he's a very willing blocker. And those are the type of dirty work things that you got to do to get noticed. And I just think he looks a little more spry on his feet. His feet look less heavy, but I was more impressed with Jennings. I think Sherfield is still, 4th or 5th on the depth chart. I've heard that Sherfield's a really good camp player, but I don't know. It's everything will be figured out. I think the top 3 wide receivers though are still a Debo, Brandon Ayuk, and Mohamed Sanu. I just think that's where it's at right now. I need to see more consistent effort and production out of Sherfield in the preseason before I can kind of put him above those guys.
I hear you. Yeah, I'm glad you touched on Juwan Jennings because I was impressed with him too when he started the game. Which preseason, take that with a grain of salt, but he was impressive. He looked a lot quicker. And he actually got some looks and he made the most of it. So I'm hoping to see more of that from Jennings because that's something that, we had talked about ever since he came to the 49ers. Can he develop? Can they develop him? And he lost some weight. He's gotten a little quicker. Hopefully this is his year. The opportunity's there. He just needs to seize it. The wide receiver, after those 3 guys you mentioned, it's pretty wide open.
Yep.
Joey Arredondo says, did you mention how Trey missed his hot route on one of his sacks? He'll pick on those things after going over film.
Oh, yeah. And, everybody says that Trey, when he makes a mistake, he doesn't make the same one twice. And that's something that I noticed is not necessarily true of Jimmy Garoppolo, who does make similar mistakes over and over. So if that holds true, then Trey is definitely going to shore up some of those issues.
Mm-hmm. Yep. On the flip side, you touched on Ambry Thomas, Diamador Lenore. Mm-hmm. I was impressed with Lenore. I thought he played well. I wanted to see a little more from Ambry Thomas. He was very handsy. It seemed like when he was defending.
He was handsy in college too.
Yeah, I remember you saying that when they drafted him. Hopefully that they can turn into something. But I was pleased with Lenore.
It's something that you have to coach out of Ambry Thomas because in college you can be handsy until the ball's in the air. It's not the same in the NFL where past 5 yards, you can't be that way. So I think that with time, they can be able to coach that out of him a little bit. I think that he had a pretty decent first showing. Again, like I said, he had an egregious hold that they just missed. So, we'll see what he develops into. They got time with him, though. I think as long as the frontline starters stay healthy, he should be okay.
Yeah. So we thought, at least I thought we made it out of the game with very little injuries to none, aside from Aaron Banks. Kyle had said in the press conference it was likely a week. Turns out it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks with a shoulder injury. Yep. And then it was reported, I believe, by Nick Wagner of ESPN this morning, Austin Watkins broke his foot and he's out 6 to 8 weeks. So that's unfortunate.
It sucks. You hate to see it.
Yeah.
And we'll do an injury roundup on and the implications of such on Niners news. But yeah, you hate to see it. We are going to be getting some guys back though. So, we have a new signing. I'm sure we'll talk about that in Niners news. I'm sure he's going to make an impact and play the game. I think Azeez Al-Shaair hopefully is going to be back next week. I think Kyle was talking about that. So, it's pretty exciting. I thought the first game overall was pretty fun, and it was really cool to see just so much hype for Trey Lance.
I agree.
And to see him really, he had lofty shoes to live up to because, Justin Fields came out like a bat out of hell, and Justin Fields looked really, really good against the Dolphins. Justin Fields is fast. That's one thing that I saw in that game. He was fast. So I'm kind of excited to see, when Trey gets going and Trey runs, like what that looks like too. But he, after Fields came out and tore it up, it was important to kind of see Trey Lance, I know Zach Wilson was just kind of like meh in his debut. Trevor Lawrence was kind of meh in his debut. Same thing with Mac Jones. After the first week of the preseason, I think that, Justin Fields and Trey Lance were obviously the two most exciting quarterbacks out of the rookie class this year.
Yeah, definitely. Fields had a nice performance. I was impressed. It's unfortunate. They're always going to be tied together, Lance and Fields. There's nothing you can really do about that, but it's going to be a nice, I don't want to say rivalry because there's nothing really there yet, but there's always going to be that comparison similar to the Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers type, even though that's more of kind of a direct one. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how their careers play out over the next couple of years. Justin Fields, I think, definitely has that fast track to start.
I think Trey here. I think in NFL circles, I don't know necessarily that it's a Justin Fields, Trey Lance thing. I think that's more for this fan base because those were the two guys that we really thought were going to, to a lesser degree, Mac Jones. I know there's some Mac Jones people out there, but I know that most people who realistically were considering who they were going to pick at quarterback were between, and myself included, were between Justin Fields and Trey Lance. So that's where that kind of comparison comes from, and that's where that rivalry, so to speak, comes from. But I don't think that there's necessarily rivalry there. Although that Halloween game, if they're both starting,
could be the start. Could be the start for sure.
Absolutely.
So I think we touched on most of what we wanted to touch on. We just wanted to do a quick, preseason week 1 wrap up here. If there are any questions you guys have, feel free to shoot them at us. But if not, I think we're going to just get through our closing thoughts here. That way we can get some Niners news out for you guys for the week.
Absolutely.
Are you looking for anything in particular in the week 2 preseason? Things that Kyle Shanahan maybe didn't do for Trey Lance in week 1 that you're hoping he gets to in week 2?
I want him to maybe get a little bit more time with the first team offensive line because I'd like to see Trey have the opportunity to have enough protection to work from one side of the field to the other without having to necessarily, that extra half a second could make or break the entire thing. Because there were times where I was timing it and from snap to sack, there was one time where it was like about 2 seconds. Which is not enough time to process, especially if you're on a 5-step drop on a 10 to 15 yard intermediate route or even a deep shot route that you're trying to play. You can't get those passes off. So you definitely need to see what he can do behind good O-line. That's just, and I know that Forever Faithful put it out, our boy, that Kyle said all the starters are playing because Alex Mack, Trent Williams, and did McGlinchey play? I think McGlinchey played for a little bit.
I think he played, yeah.
But there was one other offensive line starter that was out. Maybe it was Laken Tomlinson. I don't know who it was, the third one, but those are key guys, especially Mack and Trent Williams. Those are two linchpins of that offensive line. So I'd like to see what he could get. And then just for week 2, I want to see what the other rookies can do. It's unfortunate Elijah Mitchell's going to be out for a couple weeks, and Watkins going to be out for some time. That's kind of unfortunate, but I want to see what Hufanga does. Just more growth from all these players. I want to see the running backs not put the football on the ground as much. Those would be important things. Just cleaning up what was wrong in week 1 of the preseason will go a long way to, you just want to see progression from individuals. That's like I said, nobody's really game planning that hard. I'm sure Kyle put that deep shot in there for Trey Lance to showcase him. I'm almost positive, because the first play that he rolled out and tried to hit Ayuk was also a designed deep play. So we wanted to get that out there to show what he could do. I think he does one or two more things like that, but overall, you just want to see people clean it up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm looking forward to the continued progression of guys like Juwan Jennings, Talanoa Hufanga, Arden Key, and Mo Hurst.
Yep.
Those could be some nice stories moving into the season if they're able to build on these, early blocks that they're starting here, preseason week 1, preseason week 2, because they're talented guys. And look, it obviously didn't work out in Oakland or Las Vegas, but hopefully there's something here that the 49ers, Chris Kersurik and D'Amico Ryans can unlock, because the talent's there. And as far as Trey Lance, getting him with the number 1 receivers, even if it's just for a bit, I'm excited to see that. Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, these are guys that he was without Kyle Juszczyk. That could be something where he could really showcase his skills with the starting offensive line in front of him, protecting him, like you said, Matt. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, I think especially with Deebo too, because we feel like I know that all of us feel like Deebo does not have his potential unlocked with Jimmy. Like that first pass play, that was mostly Deebo being a playmaker in the open field. The throw from Jimmy wasn't the best. I don't think there was any really good throw from Jimmy, to be honest. He had a throw in the flat to Hockett for like 2 yards. It's just, little things like that. It's like, I don't know. I think we're all super excited. So, of course, we want to see him with the ones and see how much further he can push those players' potential. So, yeah, other than the drop pass by Ayuk, I don't think he got much run with the starters. No,
unfortunately. And yeah, also I didn't mention, let's see what Jimmy could do, because Jimmy really didn't have much for us to go off of as far as evaluating, grading.
Yeah.
Hopefully
I think Jimmy's going to get most of the first quarter.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
what'll happen is they'll plan on playing him for like the first quarter, unless like he goes out there and has like 2 really efficient drives that both drives end up in points, and then they'll just sit him at that point. But yeah, I think Jimmy probably plays most of the first quarter. Trey will, play the rest of the half and maybe a little bit into the third quarter, and then we'll see what happens with that QB3 battle and see if it's Sudfeld, if he plays the whole game, or what. Because if Rosen goes back out there, I think that we can kind of put the kibosh on Nate Sudfeld at that point. If he's not going to play, I mean, you got to cut him.
Yep. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it. We're thrilled to bring you our first recap, even if it's just for a preseason game.
Yep.
Hit that subscribe button. You're going to get more content just like this. And also tomorrow morning, the return of Niners news, Monday through Friday. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and also make sure you're hitting that follow button on our Twitter account as well, because we are trying to reach 10,000 followers on Twitter. And once we do reach 10,000, we'll be giving away 49ers jersey on there as well. So 2 chances for you to win a 49ers jersey on YouTube and on Twitter.
Zach, tell them who our sponsors are too.
That's right. Before we go, thank you very much to Acre Gold. Thank you, Matt. You can subscribe and purchase gold for as little as $50 a month. Once you reach the market price of 2.5 grams, Acre Gold will send you a lovely gold
stamp
bar. Gold stamp. That's right. Also, shout out to 81vino.com. This is Terrell Owens' brand new wine. You can go to 81vino.com, enter code Hive for 10% off your entire purchase, and get free shipping off purchases of 2 bottles or more. And lastly, shop49ershive.com. I am wearing our merch right now. It's our lovely Trey area merch. You can go and get this, shop49ershive.com. Code RGS15 is in Red Gold Standard 15 for 15% off your entire purchase. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. And just when you get that Trey area merch, make sure you don't read it in the Greg Papa voice. Okay. That's just, don't do that. It's awesome designs. But we love having you guys here. We want to thank you as always for joining us. And until next time, everyone, go Niners.